Unfortunately for the Kings, the All-Star break is over. Don't know if anyone gave them the memo, maybe other than DeMar. The All-Star break, it was so nice. It was a nice break from Kings basketball. And then right away we come back and I felt like I had kind of reset my mentality. I'm like, here we go. I'm ready for the rest of the season. And then they just get smacked. And I was just this is exactly what I was worried about. The Kings had not been tested yet. The Kings had not played any good teams, and they were just barely coming out with some wins since the Zach LaVine trade. And now they actually play a team that got better at the trade deadline, that has been playing well, and they just get absolutely smoked. And the Kings looked like pretty much exactly how they did in the games against the Pelicans and the Mavs, except this time they're just playing a better team, so they actually got punished. And it just sucks because right now it's just not fun to watch this Kings team. And the thing is, I've had plenty of fun watching bad Kings teams. I've had plenty of fun. I mean, that was my entire childhood. My entire childhood was having fun watching Kings teams that never even could sniff the playoffs, but I had so much fun watching them. But watching this team isn't fun. And it isn't fun because they have so much talent. They have so much talent on this roster, and I can't appreciate any of it because they haven't put the right guys around the talent. Instead they've just put them around each other, just like said, here's some good names on paper and let's just put them onto the court together. Because over the All-Star break, I thought about making a video that went through why I really think the Kings need a starting lineup change, what the statistics look like for the different lineups the Kings have played. But the reason I didn't is because we just don't have enough of a sample size right now. And so I probably still will make that video in like a week when we have more data to go off of. But every single game, this starting lineup just looks so bad defensively, which is not surprising because you come out and you have Keegan Murray guarding Steph Curry. But guess what? The Warriors now have Jimmy Butler. They actually have a second good offensive player. And before, we've gotten cooked by Andrew Wiggins plenty of times. So it's not like it's that much different. But the primary defender for Jimmy Butler is DeMar DeRozan. Like that's how bad of a state that the Kings starting lineup is defensively. And so to start this game, you just have Keegan chasing around Steph Curry all around the perimeter, never leaving him, never helping off of him, as he should. But then what happens is then the Warriors are just playing 4-on-4 basketball around that. And 4-on-4 basketball is a lot easier than 5-on-5 basketball, a lot more space. And it's not like they were even making a ton of shots, but they were generating open shots, and then they were getting the rebounds off of that. Because the only guy inside that could grab a rebound at that point was Sabonis, because Keegan was out on the perimeter chasing Steph Curry. And watching Malik Monk and Zach LaVine and DeMar DeRozan try to play defense is just not fun. They're not going to go rebound the ball. The amount of times that Malik Monk got caught sleeping on cuts was pretty wild. And that is why I hate watching this team. Because like Malik Monk, such a talented player. Zach LaVine, such a talented player. DeMar DeRozan, such a talented player. But you're making me not like watching them because they're being asked to do things that they shouldn't have to do. And when that trade happened, I tried to be positive. I tried to look on the bright side and see what it could possibly be in the best case scenario, which is Zach LaVine coming in and immediately slotting into this offense, really, and just making the Kings an offensive superpower. We knew the defense was never going to be great. Hoped that just the size and athleticism of Zach LaVine could replace what De'Aaron Fox gave us defensively. But we knew that this wasn't going to be a very good defensive team. But offensively, Zach LaVine has not integrated in the way that we hoped he would. And to be fair, it would have been kind of a miracle if he just came in and instantly was integrated into the offense and just could immediately play off Sabonis super well. Things like that do take time, and especially when the Kings are lacking a bit in the ball handling department from a point guard perspective, it means there's not as much flow to the Kings offense. That can make it tougher as well. But the Kings don't have time. We can't sit around here waiting for Zach LaVine to integrate into the offense. We need this to work now, and that was always the risk the Kings were taking, because this is not a young Kings team anymore. You traded for like a 30-year-old Zach LaVine. You have DeMar DeRozan, who's older. You just have a bunch of guys that are kind of in their primes right now. And so you need this to work right now. And so far, the offense has not clicked like you've wanted it to click. I mean, early on in this game, they were hitting some threes. You had DeMar DeRozan knocking down a couple of threes, Sabonis hitting a three, Keegan hitting a three. But really, there was just no pressure on the rim. The only pressure that the Kings were able to apply on the rim was from Sabonis getting to the middle of the floor and just attacking his matchup one-on-one, which most of the time was Draymond Green. And then finding guys from there as Warriors helped in on him from the perimeter. But that was pretty much the only way that the Kings were getting spray threes. They were not scoring in the paint at all because no one was getting downhill. Zach LaVine was not getting downhill. DeMar just doesn't get downhill a lot in general. And Malik Monk has not exactly been thriving in his new role as the lead guard on this team. The two-man game between Monk and Sabonis, it just hasn't been as effective without Fox being there as a lead guy that is attracting a lot of the defense's attention. And so it's been a lot tougher for Monk to get downhill and create things. And so the Kings just relied on three-point shooting early in this game, and they got that three-point shooting. It was a super fast-paced game. The Kings were getting up three-point shots. DeMar DeRozan was cooking the Warriors from everywhere on the floor. But what the Kings were getting from that fast pace, the three-point shots that they were getting, the looks that DeMar was getting, they were also giving back on the other end of the floor. And it was mainly just because of the turnovers. And that has been the biggest problem for this Kings team lately. It's been the turnovers. They had 21 turnovers in this game. That's been something that we've been seeing pretty much every game, is massive turnover problems. And that comes down to a few things. Not having a true point guard. You're just now integrating a backup point guard in Markelle Fultz. And then when you're turning the ball over so much, I mean, you're already not a good half-court team defensively. And so giving the Warriors especially all of these looks in transition, I mean, it was a death sentence. The first sub in this game was Keon coming in for LaVine. And, I like when Keon comes in the game early. I mean, I think he should be starting. But it's not like I think that's going to solve all of our problems if you just insert Keon into the starting lineup for, say, DeMar DeRozan or Malik Monk. But I still think that's one of the steps that this team needs to take. But he came in early for LaVine, and I don't like that sub. I think it should be maybe Monk coming out early. I don't like LaVine coming out because then when he comes back into the game, he's being asked to play with just a totally bench unit that doesn't seem to have any flow. And then he's asked to be the point guard of this unit. And that has not worked at all. So I think the Kings always need to have either Malik Monk or DeMar DeRozan on the floor. And we did see DeMar DeRozan do a bit of the ball handling because there was a portion of the game where Malik Monk came out and LaVine came in and DeMar was still in the game. And so in that portion of the game, it was fine. But it's not like DeMar is the best ball handler either. And so I guess that's where Markelle Fultz comes into play, and we'll talk about him later. But I don't like how the offense slows down and what the offense looks like when DeMar DeRozan is the main ball handler. But I like it even less when LaVine is the primary ball handler. Because I think what we see from Zach LaVine as the primary ball handler is a ton of dribbling. And it's a ton of dribbling going nowhere. Jonas Valanciunas will come up, try to set a screen, and LaVine just won't take the screen. He'll just kind of sit there dribbling and then wave the screen away, or like tell him to go set the screen in a different place, and he'll just be dribbling. Then when he does go to take the screen, he doesn't take it super effectively. And it just wastes so much of the shot clock was just dribbling around. And he just wasn't looking to be aggressive. I mean, he wasn't trying to get to the basket, and that's really what the Kings needed. He only took 5 shots from within the arc. And so the Kings lost so much rim pressure, losing De'Aaron Fox, obviously. And Zach LaVine kind of has to make up for that, and he wasn't doing that. I mean, I saw moments where, like, Sabonis got the ball in the perimeter, Zach LaVine's on the wing, and Sabonis dribbles at Zach LaVine. And that's always the sign to the player on the wing that they need to come around hard, come off this dribble handoff, and get something going. But instead, Zach LaVine just kind of, he didn't run at Sabonis, and he just kind of backed up further back from the three-point arc, took the ball, didn't come around the Sabonis screen hard. Like he's just not utilizing the Sabonis screens very well. And then he just dribbles around and it results in turnovers. He had 5 turnovers on the game. And so he hasn't integrated into the offense. I hoped he could come in and just be a Kevin Huerter on steroids. But he doesn't want to play like Kevin Huerter on steroids. He wants to just have the ball in his hands and go create something in isolation, and that just hasn't worked at all. When they traded for him, I pictured him coming around these dribble handoffs and getting the threes up, or forcing guys to try to chase him around hard and chase him off the line. And then when he got inside the arc, then that's where he's much better than Kevin Huerter, obviously. So I was envisioning like this great offense, but he's just like not utilizing these screens, not coming around them hard. And it just results in these offensive possessions dying and becoming so isolation heavy. And I think in that first quarter, the Kings were just getting out hustled. Although Jake LaRavia came in the game and he was hustling, getting a ton of rebounds, getting some steals. He had 3 offensive rebounds. He was getting on the floor, forcing a jump ball. So he was doing some nice things in terms of the hustle plays. And also Valanciunas was getting inside and being a load down there. But that bench unit was really just struggling to convert anything. It was pretty chaotic. There was that one sequence that was so chaotic where the Warriors were missing a bunch of shots inside. The Kings were missing shots. I love Jake LaRavia's hustle. I love the way this guy's offensive rebounding, the way he's diving on the floor. But man, is he out of control when he drives to the rim. When he gets the ball and he's driving, it's not good things happen. It scares me when he has the ball. And he likes to dribble the ball, and he likes to dribble it into the middle of the floor and get himself into trouble. And so in that first quarter, the Kings were down 3, and they had 7 turnovers. They had given up 7 offensive rebounds. But only being down 3 is pretty nice with those statistics. But the problem is then those things just kept happening throughout the game. Maybe not the offensive rebounds so much, but definitely the turnovers. At the start of the second quarter, the Kings tried to go into a zone defense, but then they were just giving up wide open threes and then still not rebounding the ball. And some of the offensive possessions when Malik Monk and DeMar DeRozan and Domantas Sabonis were all on the bench were kind of hilarious. Like it was give the ball to Trey Lyles in the high post, have him operate and try to make something happen. And then he sees Jake LaRavia cut to the middle, and then he just like dribbles into him, and it's just like so chaotic. Trey Lyles is our initiator here, guys. Like, what are we doing? And so then the Kings, they tried to drop some plays to get Keon Ellis some open threes, but it was the only thing happening on the possession. So the Warriors just ran him off the 3-point line, and then there was not much of a threat because Zach LaVine wasn't doing it on his own. He wasn't playing very well offensively. And so then you're relying on Keon when he gets run off the line to actually make something happen, attacking this closeout, and that didn't go well. The only offense we really got there was Valanciunas getting a couple of buckets inside, exploiting Quentin Post. But the Kings were just kind of getting cut to death on the defensive end. And that's when the Warriors went on their big run. And they went on a big run because it just felt like every lineup that the Kings put out there had some big negative and no big positive. Because really, here's the thing about this Kings team. Before, the Kings were not a balanced team. But at least they were a very good offensive team. And at least the starting lineup could defend, especially when it was even Kevin Huerter or Keon Ellis in the starting lineup. Yes, even Kevin Huerter. When Kevin Huerter was in that starting lineup, the Kings could still defend as a starting lineup. But then the problem was one guy from the bench comes in and everything falls apart. Now, the Kings have addressed some of those problems on the bench, but their starting lineup now is the thing that is so unbalanced that those solid bench pieces that you've now gotten that could provide something don't really matter because the starting lineup is so unbalanced. Not having a point guard, not having guys that can defend. And so really there's only a couple of lineups that the Kings can put out there and really have confidence in. And those are lineups that have Keon Ellis, Keegan Murray, Domantas Sabonis, and then some combination, 2 out of the other 3 guys, some combination of those 3 guys. Those are the only lineups that seem to be really effective, because everything else is just like, it's either okay offensively and really bad defensively, or okay defensively and really bad offensively. And so it's just seemed like whatever lineup the Kings threw out there in that second quarter was just getting completely dismantled by the Warriors. Getting back cut to death. The Warriors started shooting well from 3. The closeouts from Monk, Levine, and DeMar, all of them were pretty bad. And so then it was just like Sabonis standing in there, trying to be the guy defending the paint as all of these guys blow by our perimeter defenders, and then Quentin Post was sitting on the outside knocking down threes. The only thing that was going well for the Kings was DeMar DeRozan, carrying the offense, hitting every shot. Sabonis also did some work getting inside, getting on the offensive glass, getting some putbacks, but that was all they had going. So they were down 15 at half. Third quarter starts. Kings got a little bit of a run going, a couple of Sabonis buckets. Keegan got a block on Curry, ran the floor. Levine found him in the corner for 3, and they got it within 8. Zach LaVine hit a 3. Malik Monk even hit a step back 3, but then the Kings threw it away in transition. DeMar got a steal. Malik Monk tried to throw it up to Sabonis as a lob for some reason. Why are we throwing lobs to Sabonis? Draymond says, get that out of here. Then, I don't know what happened. The broadcast, didn't, catch it, I think. But I think they turned it over or just missed a shot really quickly. And from then on, the Warriors went on a massive run. Because the Kings, they just couldn't play defense. There was one possession early on in that third quarter where I think it was Sabonis that got kind of stuck out on Curry, but then Keegan was right there because Looney, or maybe it was Draymond, probably Draymond, was screening for him. So Keegan was right there. So he goes and traps Curry, but this all happened so slowly. So the rest of the Kings should have been super aware of what was going to happen, because you could hear the Kings bench telling Keegan to go trap. So everyone knew what was happening. Everyone knew that they were about to be put in rotation when Curry made this pass. So the pass comes, you're playing, 3-on-4. It should have been a super simple rotation, but just like one more pass to the corner and they have a wide open 3. And nobody is even trying to rotate out to Podziemski in the corner. And we've just seen that so much, where this Kings team's inability to rotate really kills them. Jimmy Butler started just abusing DeMar, which I expected to happen earlier in this game, and it really didn't. Malik Monk fouls Moses Moody on a 3-point shot, 4-point play, classic. Just have to get one of those in there. And then the Kings just started turning the ball over again. Warriors were capitalizing on that. It got so desperate that we put Markelle Fultz in, and that was fun. That was fun for a little bit. He had a transition layup, had a nice take to the rim, had that transition dunk. Also, Keegan took a charge in that sequence. So there were some good things happening. There was still some energy. It was like, okay, maybe we're not out of this, maybe. And I liked that Markelle was taking it hard to the rim in transition. It was 2-on-1 both times he had it in transition, and both times he just went up, was super decisive, with determination, right to the rim, and just finished. And that's something that I feel like the Kings have been lacking, is just someone who's going to go get you a bucket in transition, take it all the way to the rim, and finish. And so it was nice to see Markelle Fultz have some good moments. But definitely not enough. It was a pretty even third quarter, all things considered. The Warriors won the quarter by 2 points, but the Kings couldn't have an even third quarter, right? They were down 15 at halftime, down 17 at the end of the third quarter. And it was pretty much over from there. Kings couldn't get anything going to start the fourth quarter. Nobody wanted to shoot the ball. Led to some bad shots or turnovers, some shot clock violations in this game. And this game just kind of got away from there. And it just, it sucked pretty bad. And I hate the path that the Kings are on right now. It looks so bleak because you made a win now move by trading for Zach LaVine, just trying to get the best player available. You didn't blow it up. You know, you're still trying to win, but you just tried to replace Fox with just a worse player in almost every aspect. And not only is he a worse player, but he also needs time to be integrated into the offense, time we don't have. Also is not a point guard, so we don't have point guard play. And he also is on that massive contract. And so we're pretty much locked into this core for the next 2.5 years, barring some major changes. And that's scary to me because at no point has this Kings organization shown that they're willing to like actually make those major changes to pick a direction, really, other than trading for Domantas Sabonis. But since then, they have not picked a direction. And so that's the thing that I hate the most, is that it looks like we're going to be stuck in mediocrity. But there are different types of mediocrity, right? Because before, the Kings were a mediocre team. When they had Fox, they were a mediocre team. But the thing is, you could see a path towards maybe not a championship, but that's okay. I mean, it's not championship or bust for me. Like, I'm fine with just having a competitive team, but it was the type of ceiling where you could win some playoff series. And that's really all I needed, you know? Because I feel like with Kings fans, the Kings have been bad so long. You just want somewhat of a competitive team. But for me, at least, that means being able to see how we can build this team into a team that can win a playoff series or two. And right now, I can't see that. I can't see a way that this team is really going to improve. I mean, I think they can get better than like what they showed tonight. Absolutely, they can get better than that. But it just feels like now we're stuck in the type of mediocrity where you make a play-in game and then you lose in the play-in game, instead of the type of mediocrity where you're a first-round exit. But then we're also older now and with less financial flexibility, which makes it harder to improve in the future. So really, I feel like there's like the type of mediocrity where you can see a path to kind of breaking out of it. There's the type of maybe mediocrity where you're a young team and you just want to see those young guys improve, maybe with some vets around them that make the team better than the bottom feeders, but where you can see, you know, a Keegan Murray just developing. But the Kings don't really have those types of young players. And so instead, you're the type of mediocrity where you're stuck. You're stuck at exactly 500, stuck into contracts with players that are in their primes / exiting their primes that do not fit together. So I'm sorry if you wanted to come here and feel better and, you know, have me be optimistic about things, but that's just not how I feel. You know, I'm not positive about this team. I don't feel like this team is on a good trajectory at all. We can go through some of the individual stat lines, though. There were, you know, a couple of good stat lines here. DeMar going for 34 points, 6 assists, 10 for 14 from the field, 4 for 7 from 3. He was knocking them down, and 10 for 10 from the free throw line, the only guy keeping us in it at times throughout this game. Sabonis also was solid. I mean, he had 14, 9 assists. But I think his numbers are going to continue to be, like his scoring numbers are going to continue to not be very good, because where he thrives, well, a lot with Malik Monk in the pick and roll, we know that, but that hasn't been as effective because defenses are just more keyed in on Malik Monk because there's not other things happening in the offense. But also it's just like him picking up the scraps off a flowing offense that is moving a defense. And right now we're not moving any defenses at all. And so that means it's a lot of Sabonis either trying to go one-on-one to score or popping out for a three-pointer. And so that's it makes his path to 20-plus point games a lot more difficult because he's just really not that type of player. Keegan had a solid game. I mean, I thought he was pretty solid chasing around Curry. As a whole, the Kings didn't do a very good job of handling a lot of the screens, but that had more to do with getting back cut to the rim than actually trying to get out to the guys in the three-point line. I mean, I thought Keegan was solid. There were some times around the rim offensively where it felt like he could have been better, but 13 points, went 3 for 5 from 3, 5 for 10 from the field. I do feel like he's been showing some more aggressiveness lately offensively, and he's just been better offensively lately while also still doing good work defensively. Levine, 13 points, 3 assists, 5 turnovers, 5 for 12 from the field. I mean, he was just really bad. It's all isolation from him. It's all tough step back threes. It's him trying to get by his defender, and then he picks up the ball and throws a telegraphed pass across the court that gets intercepted. Or him driving to the rim and just trying to throw a pass inside to whatever big is rolling to the rim. And his vision just isn't that good. Before the break, he had that 32-10 game. The 10 assists is very rare for him, but he's really being asked to do that now. And so I just am very worried about him trying to play the role of a primary ball handler. I feel like he's really best used as an off-ball player, but the Kings are struggling to generate him looks when he is off-ball because they don't really have the on-ball players to generate those looks for him. Malik Monk had 13 points, 4 assists, 2 turnovers, 6 for 11 from the field. And lately, it just doesn't really feel like he's having that big of an impact on games. I mean, I thought his defense was really bad in this game, and he just kind of wasn't there offensively. Since Monk came into the starting lineup, I feel like he really started to develop into the type of player where even when he wasn't having a really good game, he was still making a really positive impact. And so he may come out and shoot really inefficiently or turn the ball over quite a bit, but he would still have a positive impact on the game. And I feel like that player, like we haven't seen that player in a little bit now. I mean, he was great against Minnesota, and since then there just haven't been as many good moments from him. I thought he would be better as a lead ball handler, and he really hasn't been. I feel like he just really was in the perfect role before. I mean, I was one of the big advocates of moving him back to the bench when he got into the starting lineup, and I wish he could go back to the bench and slot back into that perfect role for him, but he can't go back now. So he's just got to continue to try to find a way to really make an impact offensively. Off the bench, Keon had a rough shooting game, 0 for 6, 0 for 4 from 3. It was kind of cool to see the Kings try to drop some plays for him offensively, but he wasn't knocking down the shots, and he was just drawing a lot of attention and didn't make the right plays out of that attention. And so that's another example of a player being put into a role that they probably shouldn't be in, which is what I hate the most about this team. A bunch of really talented guys that are not in the right roles. So Keon had a quiet game. Jake LaRavia played 16 minutes. He went 0 for 5, but he had those 3 offensive rebounds, had 2 steals, also had 2 turnovers. I love his hustle. He came in garbage time and he got a steal. And I was saying, man, I love Jake LaRavia. As I said that, chucks the ball away. And that's kind of what we've seen from him. Great hustle, good hands defensively, offensively, a little rough. I mean, there was one point at the start of the 4th when it was Zach LaVine and a bunch of bench guys, I think. And he was just kind of like dribbling the ball around. And, to be fair, no one was going and getting it, but he was just dribbling the ball around, not really knowing what to do. So he's a little chaotic offensively, but I love the energy he brings. Fultz, 10 minutes, 8 points, 4 for 5 from the field. I was just happy to see him out there. That was fun. It's kind of interesting trying to fit him into the rotation, but I mean, I was thinking about some of the rotations that the Kings could come with, and when I wasn't factoring in Markelle Fultz, I kind of just came down to an 8-man rotation where you could start Keon Ellis for DeMar DeRozan and then always have 2 of Keon Keegan and LaRavia on the court at the same time, and always have one of Monk or DeMar on the court. And so when I was kind of just like thinking about these rotations that the Kings could come with, there really wasn't room for Trey Lyles. And so that's maybe where Markelle Fultz could find his minutes, is where you have LaRavia and Valanciunas taking the Trey Lyles minutes. Then you have Markelle Fultz kind of taking those minutes and becoming the backup point guard. So I do think there are minutes available for Markelle Fultz because his team needs another ball handler. And then you do have Trey Lyles playing 8 minutes. His minutes just haven't been as high because We have other bench players now, and we have guys that play his position, kind of, in Laravia and Valanciunas, but provide something a little different than Lyles did, and something that kind of fits the team a little more. So that's why his minutes have been dwindling a bit. So that's it for this game. The Kings' next game is on Monday against the Charlotte Hornets. And the Kings have a game against the Hornets, a game against the Jazz, and then things get really tough. So you have to capitalize against a team like the Hornets. I mean, some of the lineups that the Hornets have been running out in recent games are pretty hilarious. Like a bunch of just random guys. Elfrid Payton, Yusuf Nurkic, Josh Green, just these random guys that they found on the street. And so the Kings have to come out with energy defensively, and then they just can't turn the ball over as much. You can't jumpstart a Hornets offense that is not good with buckets in transition. They have to find a way to take better care of the ball. So anyways, that is it for this episode of the Roll Report. I'll be back on Monday to recap the game against the Hornets. So I'll see you guys then. Peace.